In today's video, we're going to be exploring the Qantas 787 in economy class. When Qantas first launched their operations from Perth to London in 2018, an aviation milestone was achieved. With an average flight time of 17 hours and 35 minutes, Qantas had secured bragging rights for having the world's longest international flight. However, what most of you might not know is that the journey of QF9 doesn't start in Perth, but rather here in Melbourne. In order to get deployed from Perth, the airline operates a commercial flight between the two cities, and that's where today's journey begins, here in Melbourne, where we fly to Perth on the only domestic 787 operation in the country at this date. Join me as we fly to WA's capital city Perth on an interesting domestic 787 flight. Alright guys, good morning from the domestic terminal at Melbourne for Qantas. In today's video we're going to be flying up to Perth. Well, not up to Perth, we're flying to the side to Perth. Our flight this morning is actually, well, there's a couple of things. Firstly, it flies as QF9, which is technically an international flight. It operates from Melbourne to Perth and then Perth to London, so hence why it departs from the international terminal. Number two, QF9 was the original flight that I was supposed to be on, but I got rerouted onto QF209. Okay, so technically I didn't get rerouted because the flight path from Perth to Melbourne remained unchanged, but the passengers to London did, which is the same flight. It just flies from Melbourne to Perth, and instead of going straight to London, it then diverts to Singapore and then goes to London. And I'll tell you about why that is. In the meantime, let's go and proceed to the international terminal for our flight to Perth. So the only reason why this flight needs to take off from the international terminal is because the majority of the passengers on this flight continue their journey onwards to Heathrow and therefore need to clear the Australian border. If you're flying the domestic sector, you won't even need your passport, just your driving license will do. When you get to immigration, they have a separate line for passengers that fly the domestic sector. So Qantas will leave a remark on your boarding pass letting the border official know that you're not actually leaving the country. Went to the line, showed him my boarding pass and ID, and just like that, I was cleared to the international section of Melbourne. Now I'm going to warn you at this stage that you can't actually grab any items from duty free because you're flying domestically, so that privilege is only extended for passengers who are actually leaving the country. But there's absolutely no shortage of venues that charge you $7 for a coffee and $17 for a toasty. Additionally, the main privilege that you get by flying Qantas 9, or in this case Qantas 209, is that you get access to the international first class lounge even if you're flying this domestic sector. Now obviously you need to either be flying a premium cabin or have some god tier status with Qantas to access that lounge. Now before we delve into today's flight, I want to talk to you a little bit about Qantas in relation to what's going on with their ultra long haul flights. Project Sunrise was announced in 2017. This is the official name given to the venture of connecting the southern hemisphere to Europe and the United States. Now I believe the whole branding behind this was that Qantas was connecting Aussies with their loved ones far away so that they didn't need to miss out on special occasions. Once the project was announced, Western Australia was paramount to the success of this operation, and Perth to London was one of their very first Project Sunrise flights that was inaugurated in 2018. After what Qantas deemed a successful flight, the advent of ultra-long-haul flying took place in Australia. Rome and Paris were added in the coming years, and commercial flights between Sydney and New York and London are also on the cards for 2026. Gorgeous. Now, it's the A350-1000 that's said to be playing a key role in this moving forward. In fact, Qantas said it challenged Boeing and Airbus to see which one can deliver the results required for this project. Now, ultra-long-haul flying is nothing new. We've seen plenty of airlines do it in the past, but I think it's pretty cool that Qantas is introducing this concept to Australians. And with no other major Australian airline being able to meet this demand, it's interesting to see where Project Sunrise will take us in the future. Finally, we can get on with today's flight report. Victor Hotel-Zulu November Alpha is the aircraft operating today's flight to Perth. Having taken delivery on the 28th of September 2017, this jet is only 6.5 years old at the time I was filming this. The routing for this flight first takes it from Melbourne to Perth, followed by a jaunt to Singapore before making the long hop to London's Heathrow International Airport. Definitely an easy day of flying for me, but not for the passengers boarding the flight to England. Now, while the flight deck crew will eventually see their roster all the way to the UK, the cabin crew on the other hand will terminate in Perth and then operate the return flight as QF10 back to Melbourne. On the other hand, an international set of cabin crew will board this flight in Perth and take it all the way up to Heathrow. Now, while I work to build this channel up, international flights are somewhat of a rarity for me at this stage. Not super uncommon, but not as frequently as you'd see on another airline vlogger's channel, so I'm definitely grateful for the opportunity to fly a wide-body aircraft even if I'm not actually leaving my home country. And remember, if you like videos like this, please subscribe and support my work on TikTok and Instagram. All these avenues are absolutely free of charge, and I will never ask you to pay a cent to access any of my content. Eventually, at some point, boarding was called over the PA and it was time for my very first Qantas 787 flight. After a super warm, classic Aussie welcome on our flight, I hadn't even reached my seat before I heard the magic words, "Thank you cabin crew, boarding complete." Definitely wasn't expecting a light load on today's flight, but I'm very grateful for it. Now $70 will secure this extra legroom seat today. 46 kilo, has no floor storage but makes up for it with almost all other amenities, and my personal favorite being the adjustable headrest.
Flight time is 3 hours 42 minutes. Weather conditions en route forecast to be mostly fine. A few slight bumps may be anticipated, and weather for arrival into Perth. I'll be getting back to you prior to our arrival with an update on weather and Dallo. We're just waiting for the final doors to be closed, paperwork to be finalised, and we'll certainly push it back, starting engines, taxi crowd departure.
The Qantas safety video was introduced in 2024. The idea behind it was for staff and frequent flyers to talk about their magical place. But when it was released, it got a bit of a backlash. The video is 9 minutes and 33 seconds long. Now, planes don't always taxi at Melbourne for that long. I'm not entirely sure how they do it, to be honest. For this flight, we were held up at the gate because of ATC clearance. But what if we weren't? Would they just hold shy of the runway until the demo finishes? The first thing we're going to look at is the Qantas in-flight entertainment system. Scoring extremely well today, I personally found the IFE sufficiently secured with a range of movies, TV shows and music. Now, since our rating system specifically refers to how stocked the IFE needs to be with a selection in English, I'm quite impressed to see that they've got a good range of Hollywood movies to offer. However, my favorite feature so far is the in-flight map, providing you with timely and accurate data on your flight. However, I did notice two issues. Every now and then it would just randomly lag for seemingly no apparent reason, and when they announced the main course options, they said it would be accessible on the system, but as you'll soon find out, that wasn't the case. Now, to actually hear everything, Qantas issues you with these state-of-the-art top-end headphones which you plug into the audio jack. Mine had one side louder than the other, but you can always adjust and use your own headphones. Additional seat features include an in-seat charging port for your devices. Now, as most of you know, the 787 comes with the dimmable windows, which I'm not a big fan of. But that's really more of a subjective thing than affecting the overall quality of the report. It was time for me to sit back and enjoy a good game of footy while I waited for the meal service to start. First up today, cheese and crackers. Now, I know that last year I was a little bit salty when Qantas served this to me from Adelaide to Sydney, but today, I don't know, this just hit different and was actually a treat. Was I going to muster up the courage to ask for another one? Absolutely not. Today's service was divided into three parts: cheese and crackers, which they'd just finished, and now the actual main course. It's a shame that the menu didn't load on the IFE because I thought that would be a pretty cool addition for the flight, but we had an incredible flight attendant today who patiently explained what the options are. Honestly, just very good top-notch customer service. 3 options today, and I opted for the chicken with vegetables. You also get a drink of your choice, and I opted for a Coke Zero. Now the meal this morning just hit the spot. It went well on so many different levels. For an economy class product offering, I could honestly say this meal was near perfect. Now the thing is, if you know Qantas, this isn't the end of their meal service, not by a long shot. She came around offering ice cream and chocolates to passengers. I did notice she leaned into the guy next to me and said, "Are you alright, sir? You look like you need an ice cream." I mean, I'm 110% sure she meant well, but that's just an interesting thing to say to someone. Alright everyone, loo review time. First impressions, very spacious bathroom, which I quite like. I mean, just look at all this space. You could almost do a full-fledged workout in here. Secondly, amenities stocked quite well. Sink able to dispense hot and cold water. And an ashtray, very clean, and it's got a very nice smell as well. Almost like a disinfectant sort of smell. Mirrors, clean. Lighting, fantastic. You've got not one but two coat hooks up there. So all in all, I must say this is quite an impressive lavatory. Probably one of the best I've seen so far. So far, I was very happy with the flight. Excellent meals, top-notch customer service, and in-flight amenities was showing me what the flying kangaroo is truly capable of. And it saddens me that not every domestic traveler will get to experience this. Qantas is a world-class airline, and the staff today illustrated why that's the case. During one of the water runs, one of the FAs came up to me, he leaned against the door and then started chatting with me about where I was flying to and what I do for work. We chatted for a bit before he leaned in and ever so politely asked, "Is there anything else I can get for you today, sir?" I haven't seen this level of customer interaction even on Singapore Airlines. And as we made great progress, tracking generally south of the border, the cabin atmosphere was calm. I ordered myself a hot chocolate and sort of relaxed and settled in for the remainder of the flight. I dozed off for a bit before I was awoken by the captain's PA.
Breeze, temperature 21 degrees Celsius. The present indications have us arriving at 1:25 in the afternoon. 1:25 time now. Canterbury Central watches. The time is just coming up to 12:43. 12:43 from the time of 1:25. Trust you've had a pleasant flight, and thank you for choosing to fly with Qantas.
No, I didn't record this part of his announcement, but he said that we'll be taking a northerly approach. And I will admit that I'm not too familiar with the Perth airspace, but just based off the turns we were taking, it didn't feel like it was going to be a northerly approach by any means. Now, the approach seemed pretty suspect, so I went back onto Flight Radar 24 and realized that we had landed on runway 03. So my best guess was that the wind direction changed and we had to land on runway 03 instead. So in today's trip, Qantas scored at the top end of our rubric today, even securing a full 5 out of 5 for customer service. However, please note that if you're flying to Perth, you won't necessarily get a flight as good as this. You could be on their A330s, or God forbid, their 737s for this flight, and as such, your experience can differ largely across their fleet. The aircraft cleanliness today was very satisfactory today, and I did notice them even placing a biohazard sticker on a lav that wasn't serviceable for whatever reason it was. I think that's an excellent way of letting customers know that the lavatory is out of order instead of just locking it for the flight and asking people to go elsewhere without an explanation. The in-flight entertainment today has plenty of offerings to choose from, so excellent work on that front as well. In fact, I wanted so badly to give it a 5, and I very well would have if it just didn't randomly lag and fail to display the menu for no apparent reason. No, I didn't have many interactions with the ground staff today, but they were kind enough and directed me to the right terminal and gave me relevant information for my departing flight, so nice work on that front as well. Now, as always, I'll post the full score at the end of this video for you to see how Qantas has performed out of a possible 25 points split across 5 key areas, and the rating will include which tier Qantas falls into based off its total score. And on that note, this video comes to an end. As always, thank you for watching, support my work on TikTok and Instagram, and please subscribe to my YouTube channel to encourage me to deliver more content for you. All of these avenues are absolutely free for you, and I will never ask you for a cent to access any of my videos. That's all for now. Have a very pleasant day, and I'll see you in another video. later. Bye bye.